My mother's face changed overnight, and nobody believed me. I grew up in a small town where nothing ever really happened. My mom was my whole world, the one person I trusted completely. She was gentle, warm, and always smelled faintly of lavender. We had our routines: tea before bed, a kiss on the forehead, and her soft "good night, honey." It was the kind of life people wish for: calm, predictable, safe. But one morning, when I walked into the kitchen, she turned to look at me, and I froze. Her face was still my mother's. Same eyes, same lips, but something was wrong. Terribly wrong. It was as if someone had copied her face, but missed the smallest, most human details. The way her left eye crinkled when she smiled was gone. Her pupils felt too large. Her smile was wide, but it didn't reach her eyes. I tried to brush it off. Maybe she was tired. Maybe I was imagining things. But when she spoke, her voice was just slightly off, like she was imitating my mom, but hadn't quite perfected it. And when she handed me my breakfast, her hand was ice cold. That night, I waited until she went to bed. Then I crept into her room to watch her sleep, something I hadn't done since I was a child. She was lying perfectly still, too still, and her chest didn't move. I thought my heart would stop, until suddenly her eyes snapped open. She didn't blink, not once. Her eyes were wide open in the dark, reflecting the faint moonlight from the window. And the way she looked at me, it wasn't surprise or confusion. It was like she had been expecting me. Slowly, without a word, she sat up in bed, her head tilting slightly to the side in that strange, bird-like way I'd never seen before. "Honey," she said softly. But the way the word left her mouth made my stomach twist. It wasn't my mother's voice anymore. It was flatter, deeper, and stretched out like someone unfamiliar was trying to taste each syllable. I ran out of the room and locked myself in mine. I barely slept just listening. At some point, around 3 a.m., I heard her footsteps in the hallway. Slow, deliberate. She stopped right outside my door and just stood there. I could hear her breathing, long, slow inhales and much shorter exhales, like she was smelling the air. In the morning, she was back to her routine, making tea, humming softly. But the humming was off-key, and the tune was one I'd never heard before. I couldn't shake the feeling that something else was inside her body, something that wore her like a mask. Over the next week, little things kept changing. She stopped calling me by my childhood nickname. She forgot the recipe for my favorite soup she'd made for years. And her eyes, they seemed to grow darker every day, like the color was draining away. I tried to tell my best friend, but she just laughed and said I was being paranoid. That night, I woke to find my bedroom door wide open, even though I'd locked it, and the faintest whisper in the dark, "You're not my daughter." And on the wall above the mattress were dozens of Polaroid photographs, all pinned in uneven rows. I froze. My light shook as I stepped closer. They were all pictures of people, taken in this very apartment, though in different eras. I recognized my own bedroom in some, but the wallpaper in others was older, peeling, with furniture I'd never seen. Most of the subjects were sleeping. Some were sitting at the kitchen table, mid-bite, but none of them looked at the camera. Then my chest tightened. The most recent photo was of me. I was lying in bed, facing away, my hair spread across the pillow exactly as it had been last night. The timestamp in the corner was from 2 nights ago. I dropped the picture. My phone nearly slipped from my sweaty hands. Whoever had taken it, they'd been inside my apartment while I was asleep. And somehow, I hadn't heard a thing. I backed out of the room so fast, I scraped my knees on the floorboards. The moment I was back in my bedroom, I slammed the hidden door shut and shoved the dresser in front of it. My breathing was ragged. That night, I didn't sleep. Every creak of the building sounded like footsteps. Every shadow seemed to move. The next morning, I called my landlord. I didn't tell him everything, just that I found a weird crawl space and wanted to know if it was safe. His voice was calm at first, but when I described the small door and where it was, there was a long pause. "That's strange," he finally said. There shouldn't be any access points there. The walls are solid. When I insisted, he told me he'd come check himself. But when he arrived and we moved the dresser together, the wall was perfectly smooth. No door, no latch, no trace that it had ever been there. I stood there, gaping at the blank wall. "No, it was right here," I said, my voice breaking. I ran my fingers over the paint, searching for the outline of the frame I knew I'd opened the night before. But it was seamless coal under my fingertips. The landlord frowned, muttered something about stress, and maybe it was a dream, then left. As soon as the door closed behind him, I felt my stomach twist. I knew what I'd seen. I knew what I'd touched. And the Polaroid, my picture, was real. I want to find it. It wasn't in my pocket. It wasn't on the floor where I dropped it. I tore through my bedroom, then the living room, then the kitchen. Nothing. By evening, I started doubting my own mind. Maybe the door was gone. Maybe the pictures were never there. Maybe the lack of sleep had finally pushed me over the edge. But that night, at 3:14 a.m., I woke up to the faint click of a camera shutter. It was coming from the dark corner of my bedroom. I froze in bed, my breath caught in my throat. The sound was unmistakable, an old film camera winding, a soft metallic click. My eyes adjusted slowly to the darkness, and in the corner, where the shadow was thickest, I saw the faint outline of a figure. They were holding something up to their face. Another click. I couldn't move. My mind screamed at me to grab my phone, to run, to do anything, but my body felt locked in place. The figure lowered the camera, and I saw the pale oval of a face, expressionless, almost featureless, but with eyes that glinted unnaturally in the dark. They didn't speak. They just stepped back toward the wall, right where the hidden door had been the night before. And then, without a sound, they melted into it. I leapt out of bed and flicked on the light. The wall was solid again. No door, no figure. On the floor by my bed was a fresh Polaroid. It was me, asleep, from only a few minutes earlier. My hands were trembling so badly I almost dropped the Polaroid. The white border was still warm, as if it had just developed. My heart pounded in my ears so loudly I could barely think. I checked the timestamp on my phone, 3:17 a.m. Whatever had happened, it had been seconds ago. I did something I'd never done before. I left the lights on. Every single light in the apartment. Kitchen, bathroom, living room. I even dragged a lamp into the hallway. Then I sat in the corner of my bed, knees to my chest, clutching the photo like it was proof I wasn't going insane. That's when I noticed something strange in the picture. It wasn't just me sleeping. In the background, near my closet, there was a second shadow, taller than the figure I'd seen. Its head brushed the ceiling, and its arms seemed too long. My stomach turned. I never noticed anyone that tall in the building. I couldn't bring myself to check the closet. Instead, I slid the photo under my pillow like hiding it would somehow make it less real. But even with the lights blazing, my eyelids felt heavy. I don't remember falling asleep, only waking up to a faint thud. The Polaroid was gone. I tore apart my bed, my sheets, everything, but it had vanished. And then I saw them. More photos. Dozens of them. Scattered across the floor. Every single one was of me. Some sleeping. Some brushing my teeth. Some standing in the kitchen with my back turned. But then, the last few were different. They were of me in bed, holding the first Polaroid. And in the very last photo, I was looking directly at the camera. I dropped the last photo like it was burning my skin. My own eyes stared back at me from that glossy surface, wide, alert like I knew someone was there. But I had no memory of looking at the camera. The more I stared, the more I realized something else. The me in the picture didn't look exactly right. The jaw was a little sharper, the skin a shade paler, and the mouth was curled into the faintest smirk, as if mocking me. I bolted for the door. My hand was already on the lock when I heard it click. Not the lock. My camera. I spun around so fast I almost fell. The flash went off before I saw anything, blinding me for a split second. My ears rang, my heart thrashed in my chest. When my vision cleared, the apartment was exactly as before, empty. Except now, the new Polaroid was sliding out of the camera, which was sitting on my coffee table. I walked toward it like it was a venomous snake. My breath caught in my throat as the image slowly developed. It was me, standing exactly where I was now, in the middle of my living room. But this time, there was no shadow, no figure. Instead, there was something written across my face in red marker. 3 words: turn around now. I didn't want to. Every muscle in my body screamed, don't move. My palms were slick, my breathing ragged. The air felt thicker, heavier, as though something in the room was breathing with me. The words on the Polaroid seemed to pulse. Turn around now. It was like they weren't just a warning, they were a command. My legs twitched involuntarily. I turned. At first, I thought the room was empty. Then my eyes adjusted to the dim light, and I saw it. Not a person, not a shadow. Me, standing 3 feet away, perfectly still, head tilted just slightly too far to one side. Same clothes, same hair, but the eyes, completely black like someone had scooped out the color and replaced it with nothing. The smile was wider now, stretching unnaturally, exposing teeth that didn't look human anymore. It lifted its hand, my hand, and pointed at my camera. Another click. The flash blinded me again. When I blinked the spots from my eyes, the thing was gone. The room was empty, but the camera was still warm. A new Polaroid was sliding out. This time, it wasn't a picture of me. It was the front door of my apartment, wide open. I froze. My heart hammered so violently, I thought it would burst through my chest. The front door, my only exit, was open, but the hallway was empty, quiet, and still. I forced myself to move, my bare feet padding silently on the floor. Step by step, I approached the door, each second stretching into eternity. The air smelled different here, sharp, metallic, like iron and rain. As I reached for the doorknob, a whisper tickled my ear. Don't leave. I spun around. Nothing. Just the apartment, perfectly still. I looked down at the Polaroid. Another message. You can't escape. Panic surged through me. My body wanted to run, but my mind froze. My eyes darted to the shadows in the corners of the apartment. They seemed to have deepened, thickened, pooling unnaturally as if they were waiting. Then I felt it. A cold brush against my shoulder, like someone had leaned close, smelled my hair, whispered against my skin. I yelped and whipped around. Empty again. I slammed the door shut, locked it, shoved the couch against it. But the shadows stretched across the floor toward me. My Polaroids kept sliding out of the camera, forming a path around me. They were all me. Me asleep, me awake, me staring at the camera. And in the last photo, closer than before, my black-eyed doppelganger. It raised its hand again, and for the first time, it moved its lips. Now, I felt the air tighten around me, like the walls themselves were closing in. My body screamed to run, but the weight of every Polaroid pinned me to the spot. Then I realized something horrifying. Every photo, every shadow, every click of the camera, it wasn't just documenting me. It was learning me, becoming me. The doppelganger stepped forward, impossibly smooth, as if gliding over the floor. Its black eyes bored into mine, and suddenly I could feel it in my mind. Every fear, every memory, every secret thought it had absorbed from the photos. It's time, it said, voice eerily like mine, but warped, like it was underwater. Before I could react, my surroundings shifted. The walls melted into darkness, the ceiling disappeared, and I was standing in a void made of shadows and whispers. Polaroids floated around me, each showing me in a different room of my apartment, watching me, waiting. The doppelganger reached out. I tried to step back, but my feet were frozen. My chest tightened, my vision blurred. I could feel my mind being tugged, pulled, drawn toward it. Then, just as it was about to touch me, a memory flashed in my mind. A memory of my real mother, holding me close as a child, telling me that love is stronger than fear. I screamed. The sound was like a shockwave. The doppelganger recoiled, hissing like a wounded animal, and the shadows around me shattered like glass. The Polaroids burned in my hands, crumbling to ash. I opened my eyes. I was back in my apartment. The camera lay on the floor, cracked, black smoke curling from its lens. The front door was closed, locked normal. For a long moment, I just sat there, trembling, unable to process. Then I heard it, a soft whisper, barely audible, coming from the cracked camera. "We'll be back." I didn't sleep that night, and every Polaroid I had ever owned, every photo on my phone felt different. Watching, waiting. I survived, but I'm not safe. And I know, somehow it's still learning me. After that night, nothing in my apartment felt safe. I covered every mirror, unplugged every camera, and even threw away all my Polaroids. But the sense of being watched didn't leave. Every sound, every creak, every gust of wind felt deliberate, like it was communicating with me. A week later, I returned home from work to find another Polaroid on my doorstep. No envelope, no camera, just a photo lying flat on the welcome mat. My hand shook as I picked it up. I knew I couldn't stay. The doppelganger wasn't confined to my apartment anymore. It was in every shadow, every reflective surface, every photo I owned. It was patient, waiting for me to slip, to leave a window open, to look away for just a second. I packed a small bag, leaving everything behind. No photos, no camera, no mirrors, just the essentials of my phone, which I kept face down. I drove through the night, heart hammering, eyes scanning every car that passed, every figure along the roadside. Hours later, I stopped at a gas station in a town miles from home. I tried to breathe, to convince myself I was safe. But when I glanced at the reflection in the gas pump window, I froze. It was me, standing behind me. Same black eyes, same twisted smirk. I spun around, empty, my chest heaving. I realized then that it didn't matter how far I ran. It didn't matter how many towns, how many cities, how many states I crossed. It was inside me now, learning me, becoming me. I survived, but I will never be alone. And every night, when I close my eyes, I see its black eyes staring back at me. I escaped my apartment, but I can never escape myself.